It's win or go home for the Pelicans, and I have three stats that tell you New Orleans will make the playoffs. Let's preview the game against the Sacramento Kings in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans and NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, available wherever you get your podcasts and available on YouTube. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, credential member of the media, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter, here with y'all on this Friday. Play-in tournament do or die game against the Sacramento Kings, an 8:30 p.m. tip-off a little bit later here in New Orleans, but this promises to be a good one. And we're going to preview it all here. I have three stats for you that tell you New Orleans is going to win. I feel confident going into this game, and I think the Pelicans do as well, and I'm going to tell you why in today's episode. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. It's $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. And of course, thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and join almost 10,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube. And look, this is the last game preview I do this season. I appreciate y'all being along for the ride. We've had incredible numbers here on Locked On Pelicans. It routinely ranks as one of the top Locked On NBA shows for one of the smallest markets, the smallest market or the second smallest market. That's about you, the Pelicans fans, showing out in your passion for this team. And for that, I truly, truly thank you. It means that I just feel honored doing this all for you. But hopefully we've got more to talk about in terms of actual on-court stuff. And we will, of course, also cover everything you want to know about this offseason for New Orleans. The lottery, the draft, free agency, trades, all of that. We're going to have you covered, so we're not slowing down on Locked On Pelicans if the season ends tonight, but I don't think it will. I have three reasons why, three stats for you in this game. So let's start with this, right? I don't need to tell you the stakes of this game. It's win and get in, lose and go home. You're all aware of it. That means the Pelicans know this too. And more importantly, that means Brandon Ingram knows how important this game is. So the first stat I have for you is 25. 25 points per game versus the Kings is what Brandon Ingram has averaged this season. After a subpar game in the regular season finale against the Lakers, and then look, an awful game against the Lakers in that first play-in tournament game, Brandon Ingram needs to step up. He knows this. He knows this. He knows he needs to shake off what just happened. And you know what? The fact that he was benched for that fourth quarter of that almost comeback win over the Los Angeles Lakers is probably going to light a fire under him. And I mean that in a good way. No Zion Williamson in this one. It falls on Brandon Ingram's shoulders. It's as simple as that. He knows it. And here's the thing. He's delivered before. Look at his 3 games in the play-in tournament. Let's go back to the 2022 playoff season. He had 27 points in the home victory over the San Antonio Spurs. He had then 30 points on the road against the Los Angeles Clippers in a win that got them into the postseason, where he did really well. Against the Phoenix Suns with a Pelicans team that was just undermatched, taking them to 6 games there. Those are good numbers, right? Then in the play-in tournament last year, though the Pelicans lost, but no Zion Williamson in any of these 3 games, against the Oklahoma City Thunder, he had 30 points. It was CJ McCollum who didn't really do a whole lot in that game. So Brandon Ingram in the play-in tournament, where he's never had Zion Williamson before, has regularly put the team on his back and done some really great things. That's all we're looking for here from him. It's going to come down to that. Can he go out and deliver in this situation? And the answer is yes. And we've seen him just do it in the postseason. In 6 games against the Phoenix Suns, he averaged 27 points, 6 assists, 6.2 rebounds. And his defense is even better right now. There is just plenty of reasons about why you think he should deliver in this, and I think he will. We've also seen just some clunkiness with him and Zion Williamson out there on the court, and why you don't want to be in a situation where you don't have Zion. If that removes some of the clunkiness and he plays better, whatever, that's the situation right now. It's what you got. That means maybe it's not a good thing that Zion's out, but if you need Brandon Ingram to deliver, this is the way that maybe it needs to be. So I expect that he's going to step up in this game. He knows it, right? He doesn't want to have 3 end-of-season games that look poorly, let alone 2 in a postseason scenario. He's going to step up in this game. If he doesn't, the Pelicans will fall. By and large, too, you need CJ to have a good game as well. He's averaging 26 points against the Sacramento Kings this season. He's shooting like 70% from 3 against the Sacramento Kings this year. It's just an incredible number here, and he is doing really well. I'm looking it up right now, his numbers against the Kings this season. Let's see what his shooting percentage is. I forget what it is, but he has played he's shot 60%, 70%, and 75% against the Kings in 3 games. 26 points, 6 assists, 4.3 rebounds. If these two, Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum, each score 25 or more, the Pelicans are going to win. Straight up, they will win. They have kind of counters for everything the Sacramento Kings throw out. 5-0 against them this season. And yeah, it's tough to beat a team 6 times in a row, 6 times in a season, right? And that makes you a little bit nervous, right? They're due for one, something like that. That's not exactly how it works, right? New Orleans has been a better team. Now they're losing Zion Williamson, but I think the mentality of this team is in the right spot. I don't expect kind of an emotional letdown. Maybe they go out and it's like, let's win this one for Zion. You're going to get a big performance from Brandon Ingram because he has to. If he wants that contract extension or just a bigger contract in general, right? Which is something we will talk about this offseason. Should they offer it to him? Should they trade him? Should they wait a year? What's he going to do, right? We're going to look at all of that this offseason. You want to make that money. He made a lot of money in that 1-5 homestand for the Pelicans, how much they were missing him. But then he might have lost some money in that no-show against the Los Angeles Lakers. And if he no-shows again, he might lose himself some more money. So I don't think he's going to do that. I think there's every reason to believe, just because of the historical precedent that he set and the type of player that we know he is, and just some of the clunkiness is now removed through injury, that he's going to have a big game. I expect the same thing for CJ McCollum too. They're the leaders on the team. They need to step up. They need to deliver. And all of the stats say they should. And CJ, minus that game, had been playing exceptionally well to end the regular season for New Orleans. So going into this game, now BI has shaken off some rust. Had a real good practice, reportedly, from Aaron Summers, friend of the show, saying he didn't miss a shot in practice the other day. Might be a little bit of an exaggeration, maybe not, but I think he's locked in and ready to go and has moved on from the disappointment of that play-in tournament game against the Lakers and is motivated, and you're going to see the best version of him out there on the court Friday night in the Smoothie King Center, and that's a big reason why I think the Pelicans are going to win this game. I have another stat for you that involves the expected starting lineup, and this is something that we've talked about a lot this season. I'm going to break that down for you coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Right now, though, today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is sponsored by Yahoo Finance. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investments and retirement accounts in one place? With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert financial advice you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. Do you have an investment account with Schwab, a retirement account, a 401k with Fidelity? With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate them all into one place, which makes it way easier to manage them. And for more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. They're the #1 finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle. Breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analysis ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. And you can securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified diversified view of your wealth, including 401ks and other investments. With a community of over 90 million users each month, The Real Strength is helping you on your way to financial success. So for comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brain behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the #1 financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans also brought to you by FanDuel. I got some fun stuff in this one. It's playoff time. It's play-in time in the NBA. You've also got the NHL playoffs, and baseball is in full swing. And FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. You want to take the Pelicans? They're underdogs in this game by 1.5. You can take them on the money line. Take that 1.5 if you want, if you think they're going to win. If you like the player props, the line for Herb Jones in terms of three-pointers made is 1.5. What's the over-under there? I think he's going to have a big game, so I would take the over. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. Again, that's $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and the official sportsbook of Locked On. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and join almost 10,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube. We have the great crossover from yesterday's show for the everydayers. And if you're an everydayer, that means you listen Monday through Friday. So let me know in the comments down below on YouTube if you are. If you see me at the arena for this game, please say hi and tell me you're an everydayer as well. I love saying hi to everybody. I've got the Locked On Pelicans stickers with me always. Just ask for one and you got one there, or a couple. So it's going to be a fun night in the Smoothie King Center. So let's see what happens. And you know we will be breaking it down tomorrow, yes, on a Saturday. Immediately after the game, win or lose, we're going to be doing a podcast here to kind of make sense of what went on and hopefully have good news and get you set for the postseason with the Oklahoma City Thunder. If that's the case, you'll see a crossover with Rylan Stiles, a Locked On Thunder as well. We love doing the crossovers here. You can't get that type of coverage anywhere else, because we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, I got another stat for you. I have a couple stats really when it comes to this. The expected starting lineup of CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy in place of Zion Williamson, and Jonas Valanciunas. That lineup has been very, very, very good this season. It's actually their 4th most used lineup, and if you rule out garbage time, it has a net rating of 20.6. 20.6. That's a fantastic number. And when you look at the Pelicans and their normal starting lineup of CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Herb Jones, Zion Williamson, Jonas Valanciunas, has a net rating of -1.3. -1.3. It's their 4th most used lineup, and it's one of their more effective ones. It just works, and we'll get into why in a second here. You know, against the Sacramento Kings, that lineup has a net rating of 40.8. That equates to about 8 points in a game for however many minutes that lineup plays, which is not like an insanely high number. So that lineup is winning their minutes. That's the crux of it. The Pelicans starting lineup hasn't been doing that this season. The Pelicans have been beating up on opponents' benches while their starters kind of play just even with the opponent. That's not a great way to win. You want your starting lineup to really be your most effective unit and build a big lead. Then you hope that your bench units don't lose those minutes that they're going to be playing. But that hasn't been how it's gone for New Orleans. Except this lineup wins their minutes, and they really win them against the Sacramento Kings. That's a great situation to be in. One of the things is Jonas Valanciunas is more effective in this matchup than he is in others. He loves playing against his Lithuanian national team teammate, Domantas Sabonis. And this team, this lineup, because JV is effective in it, cleans up on the glass. They have an 81.5% defensive rebounding rate. That would be one of the highest in the league. They do not allow offensive boards, something that has hurt New Orleans at times. This lineup doesn't do it, and they can actually stay out there on the court and win their minutes. That's a really important thing. When you look at the Sacramento Kings and their numbers against New Orleans this year, one of the things that's down for them is that rebounding number, by about 11 rebounds per game or so. They don't do a good job of rebounding against New Orleans, partially because Jonas Valanciunas is able to stay out there on the court, and it gives New Orleans more size than you have when you have Larry Nance Jr. Larry's going to play a ton. Don't get me wrong. He's likely going to close the game. We know that. But this is a game where Jonas Valanciunas can be really effective with the rest of that starting group. And imagine the irony, right? If you get a good Jonas Valanciunas game in a must-win situation. We'll have more on the center position, right? And one of the things I said at the trade deadline, and I feel a little bit wrong about this, but I can be justified tonight, is I said don't trade away Jonas Valanciunas because it would make you worse. But if you're not going to use him, what's the point of having him anyway? He has a chance to really deliver tonight and almost stick it to New Orleans in a sense. But I think he's going to get big minutes because that starting lineup really works. Here's the other thing, though. If you take out Jonas Valanciunas and you sub in Larry Nance Jr., that lineup's really effective too. So I said the CJ, BI, Herb, Trey, JV lineup is the fourth most used lineup and has a net rating of 20.6. If you sub in Nance for Jonas Valanciunas, that's their eighth most used lineup and has a net rating of 32.1. This team just matches up really, really well with this Sacramento Kings team for a variety of reasons. They have the physicality to go out with Jonas and really stick it to him, and that's something that the Sacramento Kings do not like. And this is me saying that as a guy who knows that the New Orleans Pelicans kind of struggle with physicality too. I'm so animated in talking about this that my watch thinks I'm like working out and having like active minutes in this moment. And it just said I hit what I needed to for today. That's how excited I am for this game, that my watch here is doing that. Back to Larry Nance Jr. and Jonas Valanciunas. This is a game where the center position isn't a problem. When we were looking at, potential first round matchups, my goodness, does that feel like a year ago? You looked at teams where the center position wasn't going to be a problem. The Clippers being one of them. The Minnesota Timberwolves kind of being one of them as well. Sacramento Kings kind of fall in that bucket. We just didn't think they'd be playing them right now in the postseason in any capacity. So this lineup works because Sabonis doesn't have a great matchup here in New Orleans. Even if he puts up some stats, it feels like they're empty stats. So going into this game, and New Orleans recently won a game without Zion Williamson when they were playing the Sacramento Kings. It was a 33-point win. If you get big games from Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, and these lineups are effective in winning their minutes, it means because your starters are playing the majority of your minutes, you're not getting in a deficit. I don't care about blowing this team out. One, it's just about getting the win, right? You don't get points for style or anything like that. You just want to get the win. The best way to do that is not have your starters put you in a hole like we've seen this team regularly have to dig themselves out of with everything. We saw it against the Lakers when they went down 18 at home before making that run and wiping that off with a unit that was not the starting lineup. That speaks to some of the clunkiness with Zion Williamson, with Brandon Ingram. That's a discussion for another day because it doesn't matter right now. But the starting lineup has been really effective. And then the other lineup you're going to use with Larry Nance Jr. in there in place of Jonas Valanciunas is also as effective, if not more so. That's the type of stat that should make you really optimistic about this game and going into it, that New Orleans can win this and we can still get some postseason action. And then who knows what happens from there, and maybe you see Zion Williamson return. We'll talk about that, should that be the case, later in the week, next week, on Locked On Pelicans. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. You've got to win this game first. We all feel the tension from it. Trying to beat a team 6 times essentially in the regular season, kind of what this is a terrifying concept. And losing Zion Williamson, you feel like maybe the Sacramento Kings are coming in with more momentum than New Orleans is after they just really beat up their kind of longtime nemesis in the Golden State Warriors. But they don't match up particularly well here in New Orleans. And time and again, New Orleans has proven, even without Zion, that they can get it done against the Sacramento Kings. And with Brandon Ingram having that play-in experience and scoring well, having a lot of success against the Kings, him, also CJ McCollum, you feel good about this one. And that's why the starting lineup, I know I said 3 stats. There's like 5 with the lineups here, whichever one you want to use. That's why I think you feel really confident too that you can get this game and get into the postseason. And let's just do that. And I'll catch our breaths for a minute. So coming up next though, we've talked a lot about the Pelicans here. I want to flip it to the Kings. They're missing 2 key players. They're missing 2 key players that amounts to 25.6 points per game. I'm going to tell you why. That's real big bigger than you might realize. And I'll explain why, because depth is going to come into this game. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Right now, though, today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. Look, when you're hiring for a small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. And that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. And LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong places. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats, they don't have the time and resources to hire. So that's why they make the process easy for you. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We are here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast covering everything you want to know about this team, looking at the numbers behind the matchup with the Sacramento Kings. I think this team is confident going in. I'm not going to guarantee a victory, but I feel good about the position they're in, even without Zion Williamson. And we just went over why Brandon Ingram is going to bring it, I expect, why CJ should be better, and why the lineups that they're going to run out are going to be effective. And more on that in a little moment here. But let's flip it to the Sacramento Kings. By the way, make Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast, and join almost 10,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube, and comment down below if you're in every day, or let me know if you're going to be at the game or if you're going to be watching from home. So the New Orleans is missing Zion Williamson. It's huge. There's no getting around that. Zion has played very well against the Sacramento Kings this season, but so have other players. But they're also banged up a little bit too. And I think that can help New Orleans get this win. When I had Matt George, host of the Locked On Kings podcast, on the show the other day, he talked about how they need a balanced scoring effort from everyone on this team. They're going to need bench points coming in and helping them. They're missing a bunch of bench points. Malik Monk is out. Kevin Huerter is out. That's 25.6 points per game left. That's not going to be in this game. Those two guys combined from 4 made threes per game. That might not seem like a lot, but that's a big number. That's 12 points there. If New Orleans can get hot early and bury this team, especially from 3, if you get Trey Murphy going, Herb Jones gets the over of 1.5 threes per FanDuel, that's really big. If CJ can get hot, and then that's going to give space for Brandon Ingram to play downhill and attack the basket and hopefully draw some free throws, that puts New Orleans in a really good position to try and win this game. Because look, you have ways to disrupt their 2 main players. Domantas Sabonis ends up in foul trouble a lot against Jonas Valanciunas. De'Aaron Fox had maybe his worst game as a professional in a game that Zion Williamson didn't play, where Herb Jones just shut him down. He was 1 of 10 for just 3 points in a game that New Orleans, without Zion, won by 33. I don't expect exactly that again, right? That would be absurd. However, can he be limited? Oh yeah, absolutely he can. And if you're able to limit De'Aaron Fox, you're putting a lot of pressure on role players for the Sacramento Kings to step up, and who knows if they will do that. Harrison Barnes was a bit of a hero for them in the win over the Golden State Warriors. So was Keegan Murray, but they're role players. Barnes averages 12.2 points per game. Keegan Murray is 15.2. If you need those guys to score 30 points because De'Aaron Fox is being held to 15 or less, fewer, Sabonis is being held to 15 or fewer because of the difficulty of their matchups, and De'Aaron Fox is going to have to go against Herb Jones and Dyson Daniels all game here. That's not a great position for them to be in. I don't know if those guys are really going to step up. You're then looking at Trey Lyles, who needs to step up. Keon Ellis, who's played very well for them admittedly and has stepped up. But that doesn't quite work. And we talked about some of the lineups that they like to go to in that crossover episode with Matt George, where they run a lot of 3-guard lineups, and New Orleans is just going to say, okay, cool, we're going to put Herb Jones and Dyson Daniels out there on the court then, and we can slow you down. We have length in Trey Murphy, in Brandon Ingram, and in Najee Marshall, who hasn't really gotten run these past 2 games, but could be a key threat for New Orleans here for what he's capable of doing. There's a lot of reasons to like New Orleans in this matchup, even without Zion Williamson, and the pressure being put on some of these other players that have never really had to experience that sort of thing, I think puts New Orleans in a better position than a lot of people are realizing. I don't expect Keon Ellis to go for 20, right? I don't expect Trey Lyles, who hits a lot of threes against New Orleans for whatever reason, to do that much damage in this one. And if they're taking those shots and taking shots away from De'Aaron Fox, it's process over results, right? If Keon Ellis scores 30, Trey Lyles scores 30, you just shrug and go, it wasn't our night. Congrats to you. Enjoy losing to the Oklahoma City Thunder in the first round, because I don't believe in the Sacramento Kings team at all. You want to limit De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis, and put the pressure on everyone else, and New Orleans has proven they are capable of doing that. That's why I feel confident about this matchup. If they had Malik Monk, who has been a problem and likely is going to win 6th Man of the Year, that'd be a different story. If they had Kevin Huerter, who can equalize some of the 3-point shooting, that would be something that I would worry about. But I don't see that being the case here. Losing both of those guys for the Kings doesn't equate to Zion Williamson, don't get me wrong, but that's a big loss for them and something that can really help New Orleans. You know, one of the things that I've also seen, and we kind of saw this in the game against the Lakers too, right? Jose Alvarado can be a difference maker right off the bench. He won his minutes. You know, now you don't have Zion. All right, you're not going to keep BI and CJ McCollum, paired together. And that's where someone like Jose Alvarado being available, playing really well right now, is important to this team. Adding in that other point guard to kind of ease some of the burden off of them. I don't think they need a point guard in the starting lineup. I like a point guard coming off the bench. That's this guy right here, right? That's what his role was in that win over the Lakers. And I liked what Willie Green did of just sticking with a lineup that's working. He seems to be prepared, Willie Green does, to want to win this game. So to bench Brandon Ingram is a heck of a decision. You wouldn't have seen CJ McCollum out there on the court had Zion Williamson stayed in. I like his feel for the game right now. That was the correct decision to do. I think if it comes down to that, I kind of trust him right now with that. He's seen who's winning their minutes, and he's going to stick with those guys, and that is definitely the way to do it. We've also seen him do a good job of good game plans in quick turnarounds against similar opponents. They got blown out by the Phoenix Suns at home, and then went on the road and beat that team in a must-win situation. You've seen a couple of different things like that. They've had some time to watch game film, had a good practice yesterday, and I expect them to be ready for whatever wrinkle the Sacramento Kings might throw at them. And that might be the 3-guard lineup. It might be abandoning that. But Willie Green, with the length on the wing that he has, the depth on the wing of Trey, of BI, of Najee, and I think you'll see Najee Marshall in this game, puts the Pelicans in a good position. Let me know what you think. Do you think they're going to win? You feeling optimistic? You just nervous and feeling PTSD because it feels like we've been here before? What do you think of the 3 stats, the 3 numbers I told you? Brandon Ingram at 25 points per game against this Sacramento Kings team and what he's done in the play-in tournament before. What about those starting lineup being really effective, being able to win their minutes? And I think that's a really big thing here for New Orleans. And then the key players missing for the Sacramento Kings. The depth matching up, I like it for New Orleans here. We'll find out. That's why you play the game. I'm nervous. I get it. You hear the excitement. My watch is still telling me, like, good job working out and all those things, which, okay, watch. But I guess that's why, look, this is what we live for. An elimination game at home. It's going to be loud in the Smoothie King Center. People know the stakes. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. And, of course, we'll talk about it. Win or lose, hopefully a win, in tomorrow episode. On tomorrow. I don't even know. That's where I am with this one right now, right? We will talk about it tomorrow for a bonus episode of Locked On Pelicans Win or Lose. As always, I'm a professional. As always, I'm your host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. This has been the Locked On Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Go Pels.